I was really going to hammer home this point and try to clarify it, which is that, and I'll just cover it for a second, that to say your nature is, so I'm harping on this, obviously, but only to try to make it clear what I'm saying. So to say your nature is peace, it's that's automatically duality because I am seeing and that your nature is peace, and I'm evaluating your nature to be peace, and then I am telling you that your nature is peace. So it requires 2 points. There's the one who knows that your nature is peace, and the one whose nature is peace. Right? Okay. So, but I'm actually not going to hammer on this like I thought I was, because it was an interesting thing that I recognized, and I don't know what this means. So I would say, and I only have the capacity to say, this is my experience. So, and I don't know exactly why that is. It's just because I think it seems to me that whatever's happening, the best I can say is I'm apparently experiencing it. There is the experience of all this happening. It seems like, I mean, it's convincing. And I realized that, okay, so on the one hand, I say that if someone says that your life is just a story, well, then it's the one who sees that it's a story and the one whose life is just a story. And so you have duality, right? Or even if the person themselves realize that they realize it in themselves that their life was just a story and what they are is emptiness, let's just say. And then what I would the premise that I'm working from, which I assume that it's my experience. I mean, but maybe I'm tricking myself. So that's what I'm getting at here. So that in that instance, even if the person, the non-dual teacher, had the realization, then there is the realization and that which was realized. So again, you have duality. Even if it's I realized it within myself or within whatever I am, but there was an awakening to nothingness, let's say. But there was an awakening to the experience of nothingness or being nothingness. But it is known by the non-dual teacher that I'm emptiness or everything is just a story. And so maybe the non-dual teacher says that about someone at a meeting because I'm not sure why they say it. Did they say it because they have the experience that everyone is exactly the same as they are? Or as I would put it, like somehow they are. We are all the same, whatever that is. I can't actually say. So anyway, so that's where and that's what I was going to talk about, is that's where I say that all non-duality teachers are teaching duality, because to say, to see and something, so you see something or experience something, and then you say, this is what that is. Well, you have, like I said, you have the knower and that which is known. And so that's duality. That's what it seems like to me. I just, in no different than saying, I see this book, the Bible, and I read it, and it's true. I can't see the difference between saying that, or I see this book, the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Course in Miracles, or the Book of Mormon. I see this book, and there are words in it which I've read, and it is true. So there's the observer of, and then that which is observed clearly by saying that you're judging what you see, and you're judging it to be true. So I can't see a difference between that, and I am actually kind of harping on this a little bit because that's what I was going to talk about, but I'm going to change speed in a second here. How is seeing the Book of Mormon That is the truth. Well, how is that different from saying what your nature is peace? It's just a concept. So the Book of Mormon is a book of all these concepts, and those concepts are correct, is what some people would say. Or atheists, the concept that everything is just material and there is no spirit, that is correct. That's a fact. It's a fact. And the reason I say it's a fact is because it's obvious. It is just the truth. So an atheist may say that, and then non-dual teacher or someone into non-duality might say that my nature is emptiness. And again, that's just a fact. It's another concept. It's a concept. My nature is emptiness. My nature is peace. Everything is just a story. Everything is just a story is just like pick any word out of any holy book. So everything is just a story is just a sentence, and you say that sentence is true. Pick any sentence out of any holy book, and it's the same exact thing to say, well, that sentence in that book is true. The Bible, the Quran, whatever, any holy book, the base of any religion. And so as I've said repeatedly, and the only reason I say it is because it's my experience, is that all of that is the same. So, and it's all duality. All duality. So there's only one change that can be made, and that is, well, I'm not saying this as an absolute. I'm just saying that this is how I experience that there's really only two differences. There's the dualistic reality, which is where you can say a sentence, pick a sentence out of the Bible and say, that is true. Or say a sentence, take a sentence that any non-dual teacher says and say that sentence is true. Totally dualistic. So that's one way of being. And then the other way of being, there's only two things that I see there. I don't see any other options. It's either dualism or non-dualism. And non-dualism is, well, I can share what I experience that sentence in the Bible to be, but I don't actually know if it's even there, and if I'm even here, and if all of this is actually even happening. But I can share my experience. That my experience is that this word in the Bible is true, if you believe the Bible. This is the whole entire book. Or my experience is, what I would say is my experiences, and if someone said it in non-duality that my nature is peace, I would say, if someone said that to me, I would say my experience is that, yes, our nature is at the deepest level a kind of peace that is a peace beyond peace. It is infinite, endless stillness that yields to everything, and everything arises within it. And it's somehow, I don't know how that happens, but that's what I would say. But that, and then I would say that's my experience. So here's the thing, though, is that if I say, well, to say that someone who says your nature is peace, say a very wise-sounding Advaita or non-dual teacher, your nature is peace, and your life is just a story. And then I would say, well, that's looking from position A to position B. But then what am I doing right now? Because I'm just telling you that I'm sharing my experience, but doesn't it require a dualistic perception in order to share my experience? Because I have to be sharing my experience with you. So I'm doing the exact same thing. It's duality. Isn't that interesting? I never actually realized that. And I don't even know what that means. But that is interesting. So it is dualistic. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe that what I was thinking is that in this, whatever this is, this experience, it basically is driven by, or the machinery, the underlying motor that drives all of this is dualism. In other words, because I can share my experience with you, and so that's A and B, which in a sense is no different from I don't think. I don't really know. I'm, this dawned on me 5 minutes ago. So I would say that that is clearly that I am experiencing and functioning as if I am in a dualistic reality. In other words, there's me and the other, which would be you. Interesting. So the one thing I can say though, and I want to, because this keeps popping into my head, is that I don't know that I've ever had the experience of having fixed belief systems, which is actually different. And I'm not trying to find something different. I'm just saying that that is definitely different. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it means anything, but that characteristic that I have where I'm just completely free floating on every subject. And that doesn't mean that I won't say, well, I mean, I have kind of an idea of how this or that works, whatever it might be, opinions about things. So about economic systems or political systems. I mean, things that are, real in the world, that I would have opinions about those. But what I found is that when new information comes in, I am very capable of making a 180-degree turn instantaneously with no hesitation at all, no delay. I can just so if I had thought, well, this certain thing functions this way based on the evidence because I've studied it, which of course, being a person in the world, I'm going to do that, just like you are. You do. You probably have opinions on things. But I've never actually encountered another person that has the characteristic of which I just explained, which is that I don't have any fixed beliefs at all. And so, and honestly, so this it lends itself to interesting way of living. So I've been together with my wife for like 25 years now, and maybe she thinks I'm crazy. I don't really. I mean, we talk a lot. It kind of, not really. The interesting thing is, though, is that I have always been incapable of conflict. So I'm not capable of being in conflict. So in other words, I just don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. And so, and maybe part of that is that I've never found myself defending a position that I held on anything because I always have this experience or this sensation within me that regardless of what I believe or what I really think is true, it could always be not true. And so what I see in the world, though, is that people are not like that at all. I see that the way that I am is completely unique. So I will just completely yield and let go of even something that is a resemblance of a belief system. Like I said, instantaneously. There's no hesitation. Whereas I see it so much in the world. It is shocking to me that people so strenuously cling to their belief systems, even when evidence comes in that contradicts what they believe, obvious evidence. And I see the world, it's interesting that people tend to, they group up with other people who believe what they believe. And especially on the internet, you see this in comments and stuff that on YouTube. That then it's just like a giant argument that's just kind of going on continually where let's say an easy one would be politics in the United States. So you have liberals and conservatives, and none of them actually see that they are it's really interesting. I don't know why nobody else sees this. Because when I bring this up, every single time I brought this up, and I leave comments kind of along the lines of the way I think, it's like it short circuits people. No matter who I talk to, they just are like, what? it sends them into total confusion. They don't respond to what I'm saying. They interpret what I'm saying. They can't really get what I'm saying. And I'll say things like, you do realize that you are conservative and this guy is liberal, and you each have fixed belief systems about the way that, say, a society should be governed. And this is just a fight between you and all these other people arguing in these comments or in person. And I've seen it, it happens. It's all, the whole world is filled with conflict. It's everywhere. And I'll say, you do realize that this argument that's going on between liberals and conservatives, it doesn't do anything other than perpetuate conflict. That's all it does. That's all it does. And every single time that I say that, people just they don't know what to say. It's the funniest thing. I've gotten to the point where I realize that I'll never actually have someone understand what I'm saying. I just won't. Because, and I have tended to lean more liberal. But at the same time, I can actually listen to what conservatives are saying, because I watch some YouTubes on politics. And some of the things they say are true. And I always think to myself, and I put this out to people too, why aren't people just interested in the truth? And not to say there is some ultimate truth of this reality, but why aren't people just interested in getting to the actual, let's say, the debate in the United States over healthcare and Obamacare, and this is something people are talking about. Well, conservatives are just fixed in their position that the free market is the way to go, and liberals are just fixed in their position that universal care is the way to go, and everyone just yells past each other. And instead of actually saying, hey, instead of fighting about this issue, so instead of arguing with each other all the time, let's get together in a group, and with the sole objective of getting to the actual factual truth, and that each person who gets into this group for the purpose of looking at healthcare, our sole objective is to be completely neutral and to obtain facts about healthcare and healthcare delivery and what is most efficient and what works and what doesn't work. And then basically, conservatives are going to lose some ground on things they want, and liberals are going to lose some ground on things they want. But instead of yelling past each other, infinitely yelling past each other, just nonstop conflict, why not put that energy into trying to get to the truth of matters? All kinds of matters in the world. I find that nobody that I've ever seen actually wants to get to the truth. They want what they believe to be established as the guiding principle. I see this everywhere. So with the way that I believe and the way that my group believes is the way that things should be done. And then there's a group on the other side that believes the opposite. And there's endless conflict. And I don't see anybody saying, hey, why don't we actually try to get to the truth about what works best? And deal with things. Like I said, I've tended to lean liberal, really, because honestly, the reason was always, so for voting and that type of stuff, was that religion, conservatives, I tended to see that they were what looked like what they were trying to bring church and state back together. And that to me was something I just had to, vote. For voting's sake, I voted against conservatives, because religion to me seems just like a gigantic, intricate belief system based on nothing other than belief. It's not even based on any facts. And it may be true. Christianity may be 100% true, but I don't know that it's 100% true, and it isn't verifiable. So I don't want it intermingling with government as it has in the past and becoming the ideological factor in government to have, say, Christianity. So I have tended to lean liberal. But I see conservatives have, there are certain things that make sense that they say. I'll never hear a liberal say that. Although I must say I'm tending to hear a little bit more of it here and there, little glimmers of it. Even I was watching a TV show the other. It was a movie actually, The Big Sick, with my wife, and the lead character said, "I don't know what I know. I don't know." It was about religion, and his parents were Hindu, and he said, It's not that I am against Hinduism or for anything or against anything. I don't know what I know. I just don't know." And I actually paused the movie and my wife was saying, I never hear that. And that was so amazing and refreshing to hear that I don't know. Because, it's 999 parts I know and one part I don't know. That's how I experience the world. And you have people and groups of people and nations and religions all claiming that they know whatever it is they know. They have a particular perspective and a belief system, and they know that it's true, and they know that it is the perspective and the belief system that should be the governing principle or the spiritual principle for all human beings. So it was interesting to hear that. I said, wow, I actually paused the movie. So again, maybe I'm completely dualistic. I mean, I must be. I'm experiencing myself as being a person, and there are other people that I see all around me. And so I would say there's me and the other, so that's dualism. But at the same time, I have this experience of not owning fixed or rigid belief systems. Not at all. And I don't see anyone else with that. And I think, honestly, that it's very clear to me that people do not like that in me. I've been insulted and attacked for that more times than I can count. That people, they say that it's not true, that I'm lying, that I'm passive, that I'm not strong. And I always tell them, well, it's not by choice. That's just how I am. And people get very offended by it. It's funny. I've had people lecture me and tell me that I do know all kinds of things and I believe all kinds of, I literally have had people lecture me and try to drill it into me that there are all these things that I know, this giant list of things. Because have tried to argue with me my whole entire life, and there's no point in trying to argue with me because I could be wrong in every single thing that I think is true, and everything I think is false could be true. So, and nobody else thinks like that. I experience the world and human beings as being very, extremely rigid and fixed in their belief systems. And I don't know why that is, because what does it accomplish? And where did that come from? Because I don't experience that is our nature at all. I don't. And in fact, the kickback that I get, the blowback that I get from not having fixed positions and fixed belief systems, it's interesting because how can I say this? It sounds kooky and crazy and like I'm full of it and I'm not telling the truth. But when I get that pushback against that, it's like I can always tell that it is coming from a fictional character aspect of what I am or what that other person is, and that character, that dualistic character that's moving in the story, that is building itself up, that changes over time, that grows, which I don't experience any of that happening. There's no growth and change in what I am. I mean, the character does, but I see that everybody's identified with that character who changes and grows. And when I get pushback, very violent pushback against this, I mean, I am being completely serious from all corners for many, many years. I mean, this has happened to me so many times that it's obvious that it's always that character. The character who changes and grows over time that is fighting intensely against what I'm saying. It's almost like it doesn't want to. I mean, honestly, here's what it. I mean, this is just how it seems to me. It seems so obvious. It just seems so obvious that it's the fictional character, and it is fictional. I mean, and again, I'm speaking from my experience, but when I get that intense pushback, it's the fictional character that is basically its entire existence is based upon what it knows. And it builds itself up more and more and more over time with more and more and more knowledge. And when people run into me, and I have nothing that I believe, I wish I could convey the violence that I have received or had directed at me. I mean, it's been verbal violence and intensity, anger, resentment, not physical violence, in relation to what I'm talking about. And people just screaming at me that I have belief systems and that I've changed over time, and honestly, it honestly looks like every single time it's the same character. So it could be every single different person that I've had this interaction with, different people, different places, different times. The character that lashes out against this quality within me of not having belief systems, it's always the same character. It's very interesting. I'm going to try to think of a word right now. Sigmund Freud used it. It's like can't think of it. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. But it's always the same character. It's like it's the strangest thing. It, it's like for some reason when characters, which like there's a character here, right here, me. I don't know. I can't tell where the character, where like be my what I actually am stops and where the character begins. And what I actually am doesn't stop anyway. And I don't know where the character necessarily is or what there is to the character. But when I speak about this with anybody and I get that violent pushback, every single time the violent pushback is it's from the same character. It's like the unique personality of the person that I'm dealing with, the unique aspect of them that makes them them in their experience. So their history and their personality and what their preferences and all that. Every single time that aspect of them disappears. And what comes at me is always the exact same character. It's the same, it has all of the same characteristics, the same anger and intensity about this, the same desire to push what I'm saying as far away as possible, as fast as possible, by any means possible. It's a very interesting experience. And I would say that it is kind of the underlying baseline, the primordial kind of essential base of all characters. The base character is what actually comes at me. And it's the same in everyone. So it would be the self, maybe the moment it emerged or something like that. So it's the very beginning kind of that the primal self before all of the experience and personality traits and preferences and all that is added on. That primal self always comes at me, and it's the strangest thing because it acts exactly the same every time. I mean, it has the same gestures and facial expressions in different people at different times, pushing back against what I'm saying right now. Same facial expressions, same tone of voice, same everything. And I've even told my wife this. Of course, you know, she kind of listens to all this because I will talk about this once every 6 months. I experience it all the time. I never talk about it because when I talk about it, everybody gets weirded out. No matter nobody, there is nobody that doesn't get weirded out. Every single person I've ever shared this with gets weirded out. It's just what happens. So it's really interesting. It's like a metaphysical experience, and this has been going on for the longest time. But again, you know, even I realize that even maybe, you know, again, I could be hallucinating the whole thing. This whole thing, everything I'm saying, could all be generated by some external force, and I'm experiencing could be generated by my mind or my imagination. I could be dreaming. I mean, I just don't know. But I'm talking anyway, and I'm sharing it. Yeah, I've shared this with my wife, and she listens to it, and she doesn't understand it either. But she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah." And sometimes I honestly think that like she was sent here to help me through this because this is a challenging experience. It's a challenging experience being the only person that experiences reality in the way that you experience reality. So, but again, like I was saying, I'm having a dualistic experience. Obviously, I mean, I think that that's pretty obvious because I think I'm talking into a recorder, which then I will upload to YouTube and then people will listen to. So that's dualistic. And I also realized 2 nights ago that uh, so I don't have fixed belief systems or really hardly belief systems at all. But I did notice something, and that is that it's subtle, but it's there in that I'm have a tendency to want to take ownership of everything that I'm saying right now. In other words, not ownership of what I'm saying, but ownership of the capacity to be able to say it like, wow, maybe this is something special. Maybe this is a grand truth about reality, and it's coming through me. And maybe this could help the whole world. And imagine what I'm doing. I mean, literally, this thought, like, because in a sense, I do think that just if I'm just evaluating myself, like from a third person, that if people were more like me, or and I don't want to say me, I don't know what I am, but say functioned more like the way I've been explaining to you, there wouldn't be any conflict in the world. And everything would be about problem solving. And people wouldn't, like, for instance, my wife and I hardly talk about anything ever. It's the funniest thing. But we're more like, okay, so most people connecting is having these very intense conversations about all kinds of stuff, the past usually, and trying to overcome things. And from my perspective, that's all just noise, and it pulls you away from actually being with someone. So my wife and I kind of hang out like two horses standing on the side of a road next to each other in a grass field, or a couple of Canadian geese just standing there next to each other. They always kind of hang out together, but they don't really say anything. That's how we are. But we talk about whatever we need to talk about. But like when we go hiking, we hike all the time. Right now it's cold this time of year, but like occasionally people will come with us that are hiking. Very rarely. So just because we like to go out and hike by ourselves, we're like late night people, afternoon hikers. Most people like to hike in the morning because in the afternoon there's hardly any people on the trails, and it's nice. It's peaceful. You get to see sundown. Most people have kids, and so they're gotta go do their activities. But every time someone's come with us hiking, it's always amazing to me that it's all this talk the whole time we're hiking. It's talk, 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 talk about mom and dad and this and that and my kids and so did this and that and all of this. And when my wife and I hike, it's completely different. It's all we ever talk about is the things that we're passing on the trail. That's it. I mean, we talk about maybe, oh, I hope I get that job, and uh, really looking forward to moving to San Francisco, which we're going to be doing pretty soon, or stuff like that in the kind of immediate what's going on right now. Or I'm working on building this kiln for my ceramics, and it's going good. So we talk about things that are going on immediately, but we never talk about drama. Never. It's just mainly we talk about the birds and the bugs and the trees and the sun and the air and the trail, and just, yeah, I don't know why that is. We just do. But so like I was saying, when I look at how I am, I always think, wow, if the world was more like the way I am, I can't even imagine how there would be conflict. Because like I don't think I mentioned it, but I mean, my wife and I have an argument that lasts maybe half an hour once a year or once every 18 months. I mean, we just never fight, ever. it's just peaceful and fun and relaxing, and it's amazing. It is the most amazing experience sharing my life with her. In a sense, I have compassion for her having to spend her time with me because obviously what I'm expressing here is it's a major square peg in a round hole. So it's not like I just kind of fit in with everybody else, and so that's, I think, challenging for her, but in a way it's relaxing for her. She goes out into the world, she does her job, she does things, and she's able to come home, and then we just relax and enjoy ourselves. So that's really the main thing is, and so I would just ask you, like, how do you know that what you know, which you would say, oh, I know certain things. So, I know we're living on a globe floating through space. Well, almost everybody's going to say that. Or I know that, I was born as a baby and I will die as an old person. It seems like that definitely, those are some things that you could say seem like they're absolutely, that for a fact. Or I know that I scrambled some eggs for breakfast this morning, or whatever it is that you might have done. You know that. And I would just say that, aren't you just making that up? Because I really get that everybody's making that up. No matter, whenever you say, I know, whatever follows that, you're just making it up. It doesn't matter what it is. Because you don't actually know. You don't know. Say, my experience is I'm living on a planet that's moving through space. And my experience is that I had scrambled eggs this morning. And my experience is that I was born a little baby and I will die an old person or whenever I die. But I don't actually know that any of that's actually happening. What if, remember there was that movie in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, Altered States, where people laid in these tanks of body temperature water with electrodes hooked to their heads and in a box that was black. And they had all these crazy experiences. I don't really remember it. I think I maybe only saw part of it. But it was like a sensory deprivation along with some sort of stimulation in this hospital. Actually, I'd like to see it again sometime because I remember that maybe I did see it, that it was really interesting. But you can't tell me that you know for sure that that's not what's going on right now with you in this very moment. So you're sitting wherever in your couch or you're driving or something, you're listening to what I'm talking about here. And you could say, I know I'm driving my car. I know I'm in my living room. I know that I'm on a planet moving through space. I know. And as I said, I think everything that comes after the word I know is completely made up. It's just stuff that you've decided that is true so that you have a structure of things that are true for you, which kind of give you your sense of yourself and your sense of reality. And I would say, how do you know any of that is true? Because you could be in a sensory deprivation tank 50,000 years in the future with electrodes hooked to your head, experiencing what life was as a human being in the 21st century. You just don't know that that's not happening. Don't know. And so if you don't know that and you could say, oh, I know it. I just know. How do you know that that is not just a sensation of knowing? That maybe that's part of the program. Maybe part of what I just described, the sensory deprivation in this high-tech system, actually imparts a sense of knowing into you that's so strong it convinces you that it has to be true. You don't know that that's not the case either. And so that I would just say that, how do you know that you know what you claim to know? And what a different world if instead of billions of people who all rigidly and absolutely with total certainty know that they know what they know and anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. What if instead the whole world was filled with people who said, well, this is my experience, but I don't know. I have the experience of knowing. I really feel like I know that, but I'm not going to tell you that I know this is true and do the thing that people did for a long time, which was that they said, I know this is true, and because you don't know that it's true, or you don't believe it, then you're wrong. That seems like a big source of perpetual conflict in families. I see it everywhere, and everyone. And I have to ask myself, why? What are people getting out of it? Why? Why do you have to say, I know, and then follow it with whatever? What is gained? What's the benefit? All I see is that it causes conflict everywhere. Just endless, endless conflict. All based on I know followed by whatever it is. Why not say I have the sensation of knowing, but I don't know that means that what I feel that I know, that is its truth, that extends out from me to you. So it's true for you and everyone else in other countries, and it's true for all of reality. I mean, people have these absolute statements about things. And so anyway, that's it. I'm just sharing. I'm trying to get, I think that I'm really bad at this right now, and that maybe I could get really good at it, but maybe, I mean, there's part of me, of course, there's this, this kind of adrenaline rush of, wow, this is really profound and people could listen to this and you could be a teacher. And, I know it's quite obvious to me that could never happen because people hate this message. So, but what I do think, and people do, I mean, I always, when I go to share this, no matter how many thousands of times or hundreds or whatever it is, it's many, many times that people push back against this violently. I always think that after some time has gone by and I bring it up again, someone's going to be like, wow, that's really cool. And every time the response I get is, oh, get away from me. Just stop saying what you're saying because you sound like an idiot. You're not making any sense. I'm not even going to acknowledge what you're saying because it's just completely, just get away from me. Get away from me. Just get away from me. That's the response I get. Just, ugh. But maybe in some way that if I continue on with this, that it will help my process, in a sense, you could say. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, but because this is some sort of process, I think. And maybe in some way this was what I'm supposed to do, but for what reason, I have no idea. Maybe it's for no reason. Maybe it does nothing. Maybe it's has like some sort of negative effect on the character that I am, me, this person. Like psychologically or mentally, like it becomes distressing. Because to share this actually is very distressing because the response is always so violently against this. And in my experience, what I'm saying is like so soft and yielding and amazing because there are no fixed positions and it's just yielding and open, which I feel is like my essential nature, which I feel is your essential nature because I feel it's our essential nature. Because in a sense, that it's like there isn't me and you and there isn't our. It's something I cannot explain, but it feels like that's what our nature is this yielding, kind of not fixed, not knowing and owning knowing, but just being the place where knowing and owning knowing arises. So maybe I can do this and it won't be so horrible to share it. Maybe where people push back against it really violently. I don't know what could happen. I don't know. So anyway, I'm just sharing, and I don't know to what end. It's very interesting. The whole thing is very interesting. It is very interesting to have a completely different way of being in the world than anyone else. That, in my experience, is very peaceful. It's very yielding, and there's no conflict in it. And yet, at the same time, to have people violently push it away when I communicate it, no matter who it is, family, close family. My wife's the only person who actually, she just kind of listens to it. And she always says the same thing. I say, you don't understand any of this, do you? She says, no, I don't. But I'll listen to you. And I never, like I said, I bring it up once every 6 months for like an hour. And then it goes away again. And every time I'm bringing it up, I'm thinking, wow, this is so amazing. And then I always get the deer in the headlights expression from her or from anybody else. And that you have to admit, it's very interesting. I mean, it is very interesting. I find it to be extremely interesting. How could it be that I could have a different way of being in the world than anyone else that I've read in history or any? That just seems very strange. And it's not like I'm trying to be special. I'm just not. I mean, I'm not trying to be anything. Maybe I'm trying to be special with my ceramics business because I want to make like really special, cool art, and I've developed these really cool glazes. But not special as in like that I'm special, but more like to make special, kind of really cool, amazing stuff that people would like. I'm not trying to myself be anything. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just here. So anyway, that was prolonged sharing. And, well, thanks for sticking with me all the way through if you did. And it may be for no reason or some reason or entertainment, or maybe it's whatever. You like it, you don't like it. It's bizarre, strange, or cool, or whatever. Anyway, it is almost Thanksgiving on 2017. And I am done.